I still can't believe what happened at the bank. It haunts me, the sheer audacity, the betrayal from my own flesh and blood. Was I wrong for what I did next? Tell me, honestly, if you would have done the same thing in my shoes, because I'm still grappling with it. It was a Tuesday, a day that started like any other, but ended with my entire world being ripped apart and rebuilt in a single, gut-wrenching moment. Let me take you back to the beginning. My name is Arthur, and I'm 72 years old. I've worked hard my entire life. I started as a factory worker, then saved every penny to open my own small auto repair shop. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and it put food on the table for my wife, Martha, and our 2 children, Emily and David. Martha, bless her soul, was the backbone of our family. She was always there, a steady presence, a comforting hand. She passed away 5 years ago, and honestly, a part of me went with her. It's been a lonely existence since, filled with quiet evenings and the echoes of laughter in an otherwise silent house. My son, David, is a good man. He's a teacher, married with 2 wonderful kids, and he lives a modest, happy life. He calls every Sunday, comes over for dinner once a month, and always asks if I need anything. He's always been responsible, always looked out for me. Emily, on the other hand, Emily is my daughter, and for a long time I thought she was just ambitious. She married a man named Richard, who always seemed a bit too slick, a bit too eager to talk about money and investments. They had 2 children as well, but their lifestyle was always a cut above David's. Expensive cars, lavish vacations, designer clothes. I always wondered how they afforded it, but Emily would just wave it off, saying Richard had a knack for business. I was comfortable. I had my pension, the savings from the shop, and a modest inheritance from Martha's side of the family. I wasn't rich, but I was secure. My house was paid off, and I had enough to live out my days without worry, and perhaps leave something behind for my grandchildren. That was always the plan. Emily knew this. She knew the details of my finances, not because I paraded them around, but because she'd often help me with paperwork, especially after Martha passed. She was very insistent on handling my bills, making sure I wasn't scammed by online services. I appreciated it at the time, thought it was a loving gesture from a devoted daughter. How foolish I was! Over the past few months, Emily's visits became more frequent, and her questions about my finances grew more pointed. She'd ask about specific accounts, about my investment portfolio, about the value of the house. I found it a bit intrusive, but again, I chalked it up to her being a doting daughter, wanting to ensure her elderly father was financially sound. She'd often say, "Dad, you really should let me consolidate things, make it easier for you to manage. You don't want to be dealing with all this paperwork at your age." I resisted. I liked things the way they were. I was old, not senile. Then came the incident that led to that fateful Tuesday. My water heater burst. It was a mess, gallons of water flooding the basement. I called Emily, flustered and upset. She came over immediately, or so I thought. She brought Richard with her, and they took charge. Richard made a few calls, got a plumber out, and then started talking about insurance claims. While all this was happening, Emily sat me down with a stack of papers. "Dad," she said, her voice dripping with concern, "this is exactly why you need to get your affairs in order. What if something worse happened and you weren't able to handle it? It's time we set up a power of attorney just in case. And honestly, it would be much simpler if I had access to your accounts to pay for emergencies like this quickly." I was overwhelmed, stressed, and still reeling from the burst pipe. I trusted her. She was my daughter. I vaguely remember signing a few documents that day. She explained they were emergency access forms and medical directives. I didn't read them closely. My eyes aren't what they used to be, and she was rushing me, saying the plumber was waiting, that we needed to act fast. I trusted her, I truly did. A few weeks later, she called me, "Dad." She said, "I think it's time we go to the bank. We need to finalize some of those papers we signed, consolidate your accounts, and make sure everything is in order. It'll just take an hour, promise." I agreed, albeit with a slight unease. It felt like a big step, but she assured me it was all for my benefit, to simplify my life. So, that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have gone to the bank? Would you have trusted your daughter implicitly? I'm genuinely curious. The day we went to the bank was bright, almost ironically so. Emily picked me up in her new, shiny SUV. She was dressed impeccably, as always, radiating an air of importance. We walked into the bank, and she immediately went to a specific teller, a young woman named Sarah. Emily had apparently called ahead and made an appointment. Sarah was pleasant, smiled at us, and led us to a small, private office. As we sat down, Emily began to explain to Sarah what we were there for. "My father, Arthur, wants to consolidate his accounts and add me as a joint holder on everything, to make it easier for him to manage his finances in his old age." My heart did a little flutter. Joint holder, that wasn't what I understood from her previous explanations. I was about to interject, but Emily shot me a look, a subtle shake of her head, as if to say, "Just go with it, Dad, it's fine." Sarah, to her credit, was very professional. She started pulling up my account information, and then began printing out a series of forms. She explained each one in detail, but Emily kept interjecting, simplifying the explanations, often looking at me and saying, "See, Dad, it's just what we talked about." The forms were for transferring funds, adding a joint signatory, and even, to my growing alarm, a form for a full power of attorney, not just the emergency access, one I thought I had signed. I was starting to feel a cold dread creep up my spine. My mind was foggy, I felt pressured, and the legal jargon on the forms was overwhelming. I looked at Emily, and she had this intense, almost impatient expression on her face. She kept nudging my arm, pointing to the signature lines. "Just sign here, Dad, here and here. Almost done." But then, as Sarah was handing me one of the final forms, a small, folded piece of paper slipped out from underneath it and landed on my lap. It wasn't a bank document. It was a crumpled, handwritten note. My hands were trembling as I unfolded it. The handwriting was neat, clear, and unfamiliar. It read, "Sir, if you are being coerced or feel pressured to sign anything you don't understand, please hand me this note back. Do not speak. I will know what to do." My breath caught in my throat. I looked at Sarah. Her eyes met mine, a flicker of understanding and something else concern. She gave an almost imperceptible nod. Emily was oblivious, still droning on about something, her focus entirely on getting me to sign. My heart was pounding like a drum against my ribs. Coercion, the word echoed in my mind. Was this what was happening? I thought about all the small instances, the insistent questions, the hurried signings, the vague explanations. It all clicked into place with a horrifying clarity. Emily wasn't helping me. She was trying to take advantage of me. Without a word, I slowly, deliberately, folded the note back up and handed it to Sarah. Emily didn't even notice. She was already reaching for the next form. Sarah's eyes widened almost imperceptibly as she took the note. Her demeanor didn't change, her smile remained polite, but I could feel a shift in the air, a subtle tension. "Thank you, Mr. Johnson," Sarah said, her voice calm and even. "Just a moment while I confirm these details." She then excused herself, saying she needed to speak with a manager about a minor procedural detail. Emily huffed, clearly annoyed by the delay, but didn't question it. About 5 minutes later, Sarah returned, but this time she wasn't alone. With her was a stern-looking man in a suit, who I later learned was the bank manager, and a uniformed security guard. My heart leaped into my throat. Emily's face, which had been set in an impatient mask, slowly drained of color. "Mr. Johnson," the manager said, his voice firm but not unkind, "we understand there may be some concerns regarding the transactions you were about to authorize today." He then looked directly at Emily. "Miss Johnson, we have reason to believe your father may be under undue influence. We will need to investigate this matter further." Emily's jaw dropped. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, her voice rising. "This is outrageous. I'm just trying to help my father. He's old, he's confused, he needs my help managing his money, sir," the manager said, ignoring Emily and addressing me directly. "Would you like to proceed with these transactions?" I looked at Emily, her face contorted in a mixture of anger and panic. I saw the true extent of her deception, the cold, calculated betrayal, the years of help, the constant inquiries, the rushed signings. It wasn't about love or care, it was about my money that I had worked my entire life for, that was meant to be my security, my legacy. "No," I said, my voice shaky but firm. "No, I do not wish to proceed with any of these transactions." I looked at Sarah, a silent thank you in my eyes. She gave me a small, sympathetic smile. "Furthermore," I continued, finding a strength I didn't know I possessed, "I want all access Emily has to any of my accounts, past or present, immediately revoked. And I want to speak to the police about potential elder financial abuse." The words hung in the air, heavy and loaded. Emily gasped, her face a mask of horror. "Dad, what are you doing? This is insane. I'm your daughter. You stopped being my daughter the moment you tried to steal from me," I said, my voice cracking with emotion. The security guard stepped forward, subtly positioning himself between Emily and me. The aftermath was a blur of legal forms, police statements, and a crushing sense of profound sorrow. The bank manager and Sarah were incredibly helpful, guiding me through the process. It turned out Emily had been subtly draining small amounts from a separate savings account I rarely checked for years, using the emergency access forms I'd signed months prior. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was enough to show a pattern of abuse. The police began an investigation. Calling David was the hardest part. He was devastated, shocked, and furious. He couldn't believe his own sister would do such a thing. He immediately came to stay with me, offering his unwavering support. He helped me change all my bank accounts, revoke all previous authorizations, and install new security measures. Emily, of course, tried to deny everything, claiming it was a misunderstanding, that I was confused, that she was just trying to protect me. She even tried to turn David against me, but he saw through her lies immediately. Richard, her husband, distanced himself quickly, saying he had no idea about her schemes. I believed him to an extent. He was an opportunist, but Emily was the mastermind. The legal process was slow and painful, but eventually, with the bank's evidence and the police investigation, Emily was charged with financial fraud and elder abuse. It tore our family apart. My grandchildren on Emily's side no longer speak to me. They've been poisoned against me by their mother. It breaks my heart, but I know I did what I had to do. I lost a daughter that day, but I saved myself. I saved my financial future, and I truly believe I saved my peace of mind. Sarah, the teller, became my guardian angel. I went back to the bank to thank her personally. She told me she had noticed Emily's aggressive demeanor during previous visits, and that she'd been trained to look for signs of elder abuse. She had taken a chance with that note, and it paid off. I'll forever be grateful to her. So, that's my story. It's a harsh lesson, a bitter truth about family, trust, and betrayal. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that you always have to be vigilant, even with the people you love most. Trust but verify. And always listen to that little voice in your gut telling you something is wrong. Like this video if you were on my side. Subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Did I do the right thing? Tell me. I'll see you all in the next story.